Everyone who starts playing Farming Simulator 25 makes the same mistake. They sit down, start sowing, hope for profit, and only later discover that half of the crops are traps. Some fields can make you a fortune, while others bring nothing but frustration. Today, we'll find out which crops are truly worth planting and which ones are completely overrated. To make things simple, the ranking will have only 4 categories: your new love, a short fling, at your own risk, and only for masochists. And we'll start with the ones the game practically forces on us at the beginning: soybeans and canola. 2 crops that differ only in color and price, so we can treat them as one golden combination. It's the definition of a perfect crop: fast, clean, efficient. Nothing breaks, nothing rots, and your bank account grows faster than your frustration with workers. These are the same crops people used to plant non-stop in previous editions. Whole fields, year after year, just soybeans and canola. And honestly, I don't blame them. They're easy to handle, work great on large fields, and with the right equipment, everything practically runs itself. Massive seeders, huge headers, and finally, workers who do all the work for you, from sowing to selling. You just click what they should do. And yes, someone will now say, but where's the fun in that? Relax. The point isn't to give them everything to do and just stare at the screen. It's about having a choice, because that's the magic of soybeans and canola. You want to plow? Go ahead. You want to chill? Hire a crew. And the money keeps rolling in. Plus, even if you start in farm manager mode, you can buy all the cultivation equipment and a combine for cheap, and still have enough left for your favorite tractor. In this ranking, I'm considering starting costs, the level of automation, and whether the crop even makes sense to grow in the first place. That's why soybeans and canola land right at the top, as your new love. And remember, this ranking is more of my personal opinion rather than some Excel-based calculation. So if you've got different thoughts, I'd love to hear them in the comments. And to complete this golden package, we've got sorghum. You just swap out the seeder and that's it, seriously. Aside from a different planting type and field texture, it's exactly the same story. The same rules, the same simplicity, the same peace of mind when your workers handle everything for you. So without dragging it out any further, sorghum is simply impossible not to love. So, what's the definition of the exact opposite of a perfect crop? In one word, vegetables. And no, I'm not talking about greenhouses. Those have their own category in the hell of farming. I'm talking about parsnips and carrots. These crops have one thing in common. Each is a test of patience. Because even if you spend nearly $640,000 on a beautiful, modern, self-propelled harvester, you'll soon discover it doesn't have a storage tank. Yes, exactly. You have to drive next to it the entire time with a tractor and trailer. Meaning, in practice, you're playing the assistant to a robot that can't even work on its own. But don't worry, it gets worse. You can't just dump these vegetables into a silo like soybeans or canola. Nope, you have to use conveyor belts, loaders, and pray that nothing spills along the way. Someone might say, but there's a train silo. Yes, there is, but it has limited capacity, so it's more like a carrot warehouse for rabbits than a real silo. So yes, you can do it. The only question is, why? This isn't gameplay for realists or economists, this is Farming Souls, a mode only for those who enjoy suffering. In short, only for masochists. Now something to sweeten things up: sugarcane. On paper, it sounds great, exotic, everlasting, and profitable. In practice, it leaves a rather bitter taste. Right off the bat, $350,000 for a harvester. And no, that's not the full set, that's just the harvester, so you're already in the red. On top of that, there's only one model to choose from. Working width? So small you'll want to plow through your monitor after an hour. And that's a big plus. You can attach a trailer, so you don't have to keep running back and forth with a tractor like with vegetables. Your job comes down to swapping trailers. Basically, logistics set to tropical music. The biggest advantage? Sugarcane regrows endlessly. Plant it once and forget about it. Unless you've got plowing turned on, then you'll have to come back once in a while to fix things. It's like having a plantation that never calls for your attention. Well, almost. Because just like vegetables, you can't dump sugarcane into a silo. So once again, it's conveyor belts, loaders, trailers, and the classic, why am I doing this to myself? In summary, sugarcane is a bit like a toxic relationship. Exciting at first, and then come the bills. In one word, at your own risk. Since we're already talking about expensive harvesters, we can't skip peas, green beans, and spinach. Although honestly, the devs themselves probably wanted us to skip them, because these crops feel like pure filler. One harvester, 0 dedicated machines, seeders, the same as always. This isn't a system. It's a placeholder. For comparison, sugarcane also has only one harvester, but at least it comes with specialized seeders and trawlers. You know, small details that suggest someone actually thought it through. Here, nothing, no atmosphere, no detail, just 3 new crops that work exactly the same as potatoes and beets. The only logical reason someone would want to plant these is because they got bored of looking at other field textures. Because in terms of gameplay, zero difference. And the new brilliant mechanic, you can't unload the harvest on the ground. You have to sell it immediately or haul it to the train silo. Great idea. Shame it's useful to no one. They added 3 new crops, each with one insanely expensive harvester, and not a single new machine. Even modders decided it wasn't worth the effort. The mod hub is completely silent. And the funny thing is, real-life bean harvesters do exist, attachable to a regular tractor. They could have added manual harvesting, baskets, a farmer's market, something with atmosphere. But no, they added a fishing rod instead. That's why these crops get their own special category, just a filler. Sunflowers and corn. Theoretically 2 different crops, but in practice the same story. The only real difference is how you harvest them. Sunflowers have their own special header, and corn has its own too. But if you want to play on a budget, you'll still end up using the same setup, because sunflowers can be harvested with a corn header. It's a bit smaller, a bit slower, but costs half as much as the sunflower one. And on top of that, it's more versatile. Tired of sunflowers? Just switch to corn for grain. No equipment changes, no hassle. Aside from that little detail, both crops work exactly like sorghum. Same process, same simplicity, same satisfaction. So, without overcomplicating it, sunflowers and corn also land at the very top of the love category. And before anyone asked about corn for silage, I made a dedicated video about silage, so be sure to check that one out. Oats, barley, and wheat, the holy trinity of farming simulator. I don't know a single player who hasn't planted at least one of them at some point, voluntarily, just because, well, that's what you do. When it comes to harvesting, there's no difference compared to soybeans or canola. Workers handle it just fine, and you can dump the grain into a silo and forget about it. But then comes the bonus content, straw. And that's where the problems begin. You can chop it. Just turn on the chopper and pretend the issue doesn't exist. But that's completely stupid because straw is half the profit from these crops. And if you do want to collect it, well, your workers will wish you good luck. Because after 15 years of the series development, they still can't bale or collect straw. I remember it like it was yesterday. Farming Simulator 2011, 4 hours of baling, and afterward, I didn't even feel like picking the bales up anymore. And guess what? Over a decade later, in 2025, it's still the same story. No progress, no baling workers. Collecting? Okay, I can understand. But baling, that would be revolutionary. Maybe that's exactly what the devs are waiting for. To run out of ideas and then add it as a major new feature. Honestly, I've been waiting for that for over a decade. For now, these crops remain just a short fling. Sugar beets and red beets, crops that have their loyal fans and everyone else who avoids them like the plague. Me? Definitely the latter. Don't get me wrong, beets are great in multiplayer. A loading machine, a line of players in trucks, someone gets stuck, someone gets mad, pure chaos, pure fun. But in single player, that's a whole different story. You have to keep switching vehicles constantly, so if you're playing solo, it's better to rely on conveyor belts or a front loader, also known as the masochist method, because beets have record-breaking yields per hectare. Loading even a small field takes forever. By the time you're done, you'll have forgotten why you even started. Sure, there's the train silo, but let's be honest, that's more of a temporary fix. As for the farming itself, that part's not a nightmare. Workers can handle most of the tasks, plowing, sowing, harvesting, no problem there. But the starting cost, that's a different story. A tractor-mounted harvester costs over $170,000. A topper for removing leaves, almost $100,000. And you'll need a tractor with at least 300 horsepower. So savings, forget it. It's nice that there's a cheaper alternative to the $500,000 full harvester, but it's a shame there's no smaller scale option. Right now, the choice is simple: expensive or even more expensive. Beets are beautiful, demanding, and satisfying if you've got time and nerves of steel, but if you're playing solo, it's strictly at your own risk. I spent a long time debating whether to put potatoes and beets in the same category because they have a lot in common. But unlike peas or spinach, potatoes actually have dedicated machines, so they've earned their own section. Let's start with storage. You can dump them on the ground and load them with a front loader, the classic choice for masochists. But if you want to stay civilized, you can pack them into pallets. Sounds more convenient until you calculate how many you'll need. One pallet holds 1,000 liters, and from a single field, you can harvest hundreds of thousands. So if someone actually tried packing all that manually, respect or condolences. Aside from that, the process itself works just like with beets. The machines are different, but workers handle everything fine, so that part's okay. The trouble starts with the starting cost. Even though it's cheaper than beets, you're still looking at almost 200,000 just for a tractor-mounted harvester. And let me remind you, the cheapest grain harvester costs half that amount. I have no doubt that in real life you could find potato harvesters for a fraction of this price. But as they say, appreciate what you've got. And yes, potatoes are a crop you can fall in love with until you try to store them, because from that point on, it's strictly at your own risk. Rice, another new addition in Farming Simulator 25, and interestingly, this time it's not just a filler crop. There's only one harvester available, but alongside it comes a dedicated planter and an entirely new mechanic, field flooding. Yes, literally, planting in water. And no, it's not just a visual effect, it actually works. The devs even added water physics, which some players love and others absolutely hate. Personally, I think it's fantastic. Flooded fields look stunning. The mud, reflections, lighting, it's one of the most atmospheric things in the entire game. And best of all, workers handle everything. Planting, harvesting, the whole process. Zero stress, zero manual labor. And even though there's only one harvester, it's surprisingly cheap, under 100,000. The planter isn't expensive either. So in terms of realism, atmosphere, and cost, Rice is a genuinely brilliant addition. Not quite top tier, but definitely something worth trying. Perfect for a short fling. We can also add long grain rice to the mix. Technically the same category, but with one big advantage. It doesn't require any special machinery. You plant it, harvest it, sell it, end of story. It doesn't get any simpler than that. However, it loses its biggest charm, the muddy, water-filled planting experience. But if you still want that cozy little wetland vibe near your farm without buying huge new machines that take up half your yard, it's actually a really solid option. Starting costs? Exactly the same as for soybeans or canola. The only catch, you need a special field, but you can also plant other crops on it, so it's more of a small investment than a real problem. Something truly perfect for a short fling. To keep things from being too pleasant, it's time for something less enjoyable. Poplar. In theory, workers can plant it for you. In practice, if you've got a large field, you might as well say goodbye to your tractor for a few hours. The planting process takes forever. As for harvesting, there are two options, a forage harvester or bales. Bales are strictly for masochists. There will be tons of them. Workers won't touch them, and unlike hay, you can't rake everything into a single row. You just keep driving back and forth, endlessly. That's why the forage harvester is the only sensible choice. Either you drive it yourself or tow a trailer behind it. And honestly, that's not even the worst part. The real problem begins with storage. No dedicated machines, no pallets, no warehouses, just conveyor belts, a loader, or direct selling. And honestly, that last one isn't a bad idea. Because Poplar can be harvested at any time of year, so you can simply wait for the price to go up before selling. Another upside, Poplar regrows infinitely. So that planting nightmare, you only go through it once. Assuming, of course, you decide to keep it. Starting cost? Reasonable. But only if you go with bales. Once you switch to a forage harvester, things get a lot less pretty. So even though Poplar looks like easy money on paper, in practice it's a green test of patience, and strictly at your own risk. Cutting a crop that almost every player has had a brief fling with at some point, out of pure curiosity. What even is this? And most quickly forgot about it because it's one of those relationships that ends before it really begins. On the bright side, it can be almost fully automated. Almost. The only thing you can automate is collecting the bale. Luckily, there aren't many of them, so that's tolerable. But one thing that isn't, the price of the harvester. Because this is yet another crop in the category of self-propelled monsters. Two models to choose from, and the cheapest one costs $500,000. So if you just want to try cotton, spending $500,000 on a harvester that will then sit in your shed gathering dust might just be the decision of the year, as in the worst one. Sure, you could lease it, but with how slow the harvesting process is, you'll barely make your money back before the season ends. Cotton looks gorgeous in screenshots, but it's murder on your wallet and definitely at your own risk. Grapes and olives, a duo that automatically lands on the same shelf. Olives require a bit less work since you don't need to prune the bushes after harvest. But apart from that, it's practically the same vibe. They're the definition of freshness. Everyone wants to try them, and everyone forgets about them just as fast. Sure, they've got some interesting mechanics, building the rows, using specialized machines that drive between them, even a touch of that Italian atmosphere. But workers won't help with anything. Zero automation. Zero support. You do everything yourself. The price would have to be out of this world to make it worthwhile, and it's not. In theory, you could plant a few bushes near your farm just for relaxation, but the cheapest harvesters still cost hundreds of thousands, so it's all or nothing. And even if you go all in, you still do everything on your own. No help, no shortcuts, just you, the bushes, and your patience. On one hand, the mechanics are fun and fresh. On the other, pure tedium. With that much work, it's no longer farming. It's patience therapy, thankfully. Only at your own risk. And finally, the last green symbol of Farming Simulator, grass. On its own, it can be used in several ways, as plain grass, hay, or silage, which by the way already has its own dedicated episode. Depending on what you do with it, the starting equipment costs will vary, but the differences are small. It's one of the cheapest crops in the entire game. All you need is a tractor, a mower, and a forage wagon. And since grass regrows endlessly, you can keep earning as much as you want. Sounds perfect, right? Well, only sounds, because when it comes to automation, things aren't so bright anymore. No matter if it's hay, grass, or silage, in the end, you still have to collect everything yourself. Workers won't help. Doesn't matter if it's bales or a forage wagon. The work always falls back on you. So, it's not an ideal crop, but it's a fair one at your own risk. And how does it actually compare in numbers against other crops? I cover that in a separate video where I compared every single profit down to the liter. So check out that episode, subscribe so you don't miss the next rankings, and see you soon.